I do have the top of the hour by my watch. So thank you all for being here today. We have a really interesting topic to be going through today. We're going to be looking at Agile, Predictive, and Hybrid, and looking at and discussing which type of methodology you should be using. And in the slide deck that I do have some examples and different things for you to consider as you are working on your projects and thinking about different types of methodology. So, my name is Cheryl Karstens. I am the manager of curriculum development and a trainer with Peterson's. I have listed on the slide all of the different pieces of content that I have reviewed or been responsible for reviewing over the last several years. In addition to what I have listed on the PowerPoint slide, also the ACP book is currently being worked on, as well as our classes and our fast track information. And I am helping and working on all of that information. And then shortly, we will be looking at our PMP book and doing an update, doing the 12th edition of the PMP book for exam changes that are going to take place in 2026. I have over 20 years, probably closer to 25 years, experience in curriculum development. I am a 3-time speaker at our PMI Global Summit, and I have a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Human Resources, and I have completed all of the courses for a master's degree in Organizational Leadership. I just have not finished my thesis yet. So I have not technically graduated, but it's all up here. I've got all of the information for it. And then I also have my LinkedIn connection listed on this slide if you would like to either follow me or invite me to be your friend on LinkedIn. I would love to be able to do that. We do have some copyright information listed on the next slide. This document contains proprietary materials, and we do not want anyone attending this particular webinar to copy, record, or reproduce in any manner, in whole or in part, without prior written consent of RMC Learning Solutions. A little bit about RMC Learning Solutions. We were founded in 1991 by Rita Mulcahy. And then last January, we were purchased by Peterson's and became a subsidiary of Peterson's. And it's been going really, really well. And I'm looking forward to offering some new classes and new products in the future. We have helped over 1 million professionals prepare for certification exams in project management, business analysis, and Agile. And that is really a huge number. But all of our products and all of the information that we give to our students has been vetted by many people, and it is a great collaboration with RMC and Peterson's. We have numerous learning solutions and products ranging from self-study to e-learning to on-site and to instructor-led virtual classes. And you can check out all of what we have to offer at rmcls.com. We also have an international reach. We currently train in 60 regions and 18 different languages around the world. One of the key points that I think is what makes RMC so successful is we are based on outcome-based learning through our professional instructors, coaches, and mentors. And what that means to be an outcome-based learning organization is that after every training session, every webinar, everything that I talk about, we have an action plan in all of our classes for students to put together. In this case, we do have 3 things that you will be able to work on and start doing as a result of this webinar. So, our agenda for today is how to determine when using an agile or hybrid approach makes the most sense, the benefits to using agile tools and techniques, when to train and lead the team to use agile tools and techniques, and then how to become more comfortable using a hybrid approach. And as I said, we're also going to end this session with 3 tips that you'll be able to implement right away. So when we start off and we are thinking about our development approach, our life cycle that we are using for our projects, generally they fall under either a plan-driven methodology or an agile or adaptive methodology. Our predictive methodology has a more defined scope at the beginning of the project. It is has a schedule and a budget, and our other constraints are generally well known. When we are working with an agile project, we are generally doing this a little more adaptive, iterative, or creating iterations or incremental cycles or phases. Our scope is emerging within our fixed schedule and cost constraints. And one of the key pieces that I like to think about for Agile, beyond software development, is for knowledge workers. I am in the training department and I am a knowledge worker. The scope that we begin with most of our projects in, we have a general idea of what our learning objectives are and what we're going to be creating, but most of that scope emerges through our different iterations. And that is one of the key differences that I find for using an agile approach versus a plan-driven approach. One of the most important pieces, I think, of project management and that PMI has definitely adopted more is our hybrid approach, where we are using some plan-driven pieces in that project, and then we're also using some agile parts of that process. And we're going to be talking a lot today about hybrid and how to implement agile pieces into either traditional plan-driven or be able to become more of using a hybrid actual methodology. I find this piece to be really important when we are thinking about using an agile or hybrid approach. And this quote comes from the PMP exam content outline, and you can find this on page 2 of that ECO. So accordingly, the PMP certification will be reflective of this and will incorporate approaches across the value delivery spectrum. About half of the examination will represent predictive project management approaches, and the other half will represent agile or hybrid approaches. Predictive, agile, and hybrid approaches will be found throughout the three domain areas, that is, people, process, and business environment, and they are not isolated to any particular domain or task. And so when this new exam content outline was released, there was a lot of question about agile and about hybrid and how much and how were those questions going to be worded. And we have done a lot of research, and that's actually one of the reasons that we updated our PMP exam prep book to the 11th edition to include more agile and hybrid information. But I have found that as the PMI has become more open to agile and hybrid, that many people that are attending our webinars and our classes, they have some agile knowledge, but not nearly enough. In most cases, to take that exam and be able to pass it. And so that is one of the reasons why I have created this webinar and am going through all of this information with you today, is because many of us are curious about Agile and about using more Agile tools. And I'm going to be going through some of those with you today to help you expand your knowledge. And if you are a person that is considering taking that PMP exam, we have some great courses, and our instructors are fabulous in helping people to be able to navigate their way through Agile and hybrid if they're not currently using that in their projects. So, what exactly is hybrid? What exactly does that mean when we are referring to using hybrid? And I bet many of you are already using a hybrid approach and you may not even know it. Hybrid is when you combine two or more technologies or different approaches to a project. And personally, as I said earlier, I am a knowledge worker and I am creating training programs and curriculum. And we are a very change driven organization when it comes to our processes. We have different iterations, different ways that our products are reviewed. We are constantly making changes and updating our materials. So for us, it's really difficult to keep just a plan driven approach. We do keep some of the items plan driven in order to have a tight timeline and to meet those deadlines. We have scheduled classes and we have dates that our materials must be printed and shipped out by. I personally like to work in a hybrid environment, although sometimes it can be challenging. But we're going to look at a few examples of what that means to work in a hybrid environment. So, our hybrid approaches, as I said earlier, are combinations of two or more different technologies or approaches. And then the plan driven and agile approaches may be used together as a hybrid to address accountability and uncertainty. And that is what we are going to be talking about during this webinar today. So, our hybrid options. So, agile development could be followed by a plan driven rollout. So, For example, if we were developing some software, may want to use Agile for the software development piece. But then when we start rolling it out and training 3,000 users, we may find that we do need a more refined, repeatable process. We do not need an agile approach to the rollout and the training. We can plan that up front and then we execute that plan. And this is an example of using both an agile and a plan driven approach for a specific project. And I believe this for software development is one of the best ways to do an agile rollout, is then to have a very plan driven environment and way of organizing and speaking to the new software. So that is an example of agile development followed by a plan-driven rollout. We can also have a combination of agile and plan-driven approaches on a single project. So, in this particular case, we are going to first think about the most important thing to consider when we are looking at our work environment. And when you focus on choosing the best tool for the job based on the characteristics of the project, you should consider whether it will be beneficial to take a more agile or plan driven approach. When you're using a hybrid approach, it gives you a broader toolbox so you can use the best and most appropriate techniques. So, for our example of using a combination of agile and plan driven approaches, we can use this in the example of building a new library, for example. Our plan driven pieces would be when we are actually building that building. We want to have it be very structured. We want to make sure that it is well organized, that once that building has been built, that we have all of the proper people in to put in the plumbing and be able to put in the electrical and all of those pieces. Agile part that we may be working on at the same time will while that building is being built may be all of the decorations or the equipment that is needed within that specific building. There may be meetings going on, there may be conversations about how to set up each room, what the theme of each room is supposed to be, how it's going to help within that library and the participants and the stakeholders that are going to be using that particular place. We can also do a largely plan driven approach with an agile component. And I am going to be talking about this in more detail for any of you that are looking at either starting to use some of the agile tools and techniques within a plan driven environment. I find that is often the easiest or best way to introduce Agile when you are working in a strictly plan-driven environment. And then also, we have a largely agile approach with a plan-driven component. And like I said earlier, this could be a great example of creating software or creating a new project or a new product and using a plan driven in order to train everyone on that specific product. So These are all different examples of how you can implement and start using an agile approach when you are currently more specifically using a plan-driven approach. So when you are looking at how to determine which approach to use, you do need to keep a couple things in mind. And one of those key pieces is that when you make a change, it is generally going to be disruptive to the regular business. And we're going to be talking about communication and how to let everyone know that you're going to be shifting and using more of an agile approach. The other caution that I have is that stakeholders sometimes are resistant to using more of an agile approach, and they will continue to work on the project what they're most comfortable with. So you do need to spend some time with that team, training them and helping them to understand what are some of those benefits of using a more agile approach. And again, those stakeholders' lack of training. I've seen a lot of organizations that have just decided to go agile and have not offered training to their stakeholders or these people that are now agile people. You do need to have a training session with them, give them some of the benefits and why change is being made. It might be very obvious to you, but to the people that are working on that project, it may not be, and they may be very comfortable doing it in a plan-driven environment. You need to help them understand why it is important to switch and use some of the agile tools and techniques. You can also have a lack of sponsor visibility and communication. And when we get to the end of our session today, that is one of our tips. We need to have all of our stakeholders and our leaders on board with either using more agile tools and techniques or switching some of our processes. And then also, you need to keep in mind that the organization may not immediately reap the benefits of that change. As we all know, when we are going through a change and learning how to do something new or differently, it can take more time. And this is something that often is not addressed when you are looking at implementing Agile. In many cases, when you are getting good at Agile, it does save time. But at the beginning of implementing, it probably is not going to save that same amount of time. And as your team gets more familiar, it will definitely save them some time. So some of the challenges, and these are good challenges. Achieving lasting change, though, is difficult, and you always want to keep that in mind. And it is very helpful if you have a change management process that you can look at and go through with your team members as you are introducing some of the agile tools and techniques. And people are unlikely to blindly accept new approaches. And again, that is why you need to explain why and what some of the benefits are going to be. So, resistance to change is normal and healthy. And the plan for resistance and develop strategies to ensure worthwhile changes occur. And that is one of those key pieces as you are making changes to any part of your process. You want to have a strategy and speak to it with your team members in order for them to see the benefits of that change. And then you want to sell the relevant strengths and address the concerns within each stakeholder group. And that is a very important part of communicating with your team as a project manager, and then also as part of change management. So when you are thinking about how you're going to relate some of this information back to your stakeholders, you do want to think about this as a new challenge. It is going to lead to some team member growth. They're going to be more effective, and hopefully all of that team is going to be able to work faster and more effectively, and especially on projects where that scope is not as known at the beginning. Using an agile approach can definitely help. You are also creating new opportunities for your team members to learn new processes and expand their project management knowledge. You're also going to experience time savings. So many agile tools and techniques offer a better understanding of stakeholders. So requirements and expectations are met earlier and more often. Because generally, when you are using an agile methodology, you are doing some type of a demonstration with those key stakeholders early in the project. And so, even at the very beginning, if you're working on that project charter, you still want to gather their basic requirements and expectations. And then, when you do a demo of that first iteration of that product, then you are getting a lot more feedback. And that is one of those key differences in using an agile approach, is to get feedback from that customer sooner and more often. So that helps us to reduce rework. So showing the customer a demo early improves customer satisfaction, and it also improves project success. And if you were attended our webinar last month, I talked a lot about project value and how important that is. And that is one of the key pieces that I think it makes Agile so much more attractive, is it does help improve the business value, and it helps our customers to be more satisfied with the product that they are receiving. And then our approach, using a hybrid approach, maximizes productivity and uses the best information available for that project. And again, you are learning that information as you are creating that product. So, how exactly does all of this work? So, when you are planning for your project, you want to always think about during our initiating and planning is what we're going to be doing, how we're going to do it, and then during executing and monitoring and controlling, we are actually doing that process, and it is the way that we do it. So when we are introducing some of our agile products to a team, the example that I have on the slide listed here is using personas and starting to draft out personas for your customer group. And for those of you that are not aware of what a persona is, it is a brief description where you are going to be writing out the description of that customer and the values that that customer would like to find in that specific product. And so the what to do is drafting those personas. That's also about having a training session with that team and those team members in order for everyone to understand what a persona is, why you are drafting them, and how they're going to be used. And then how to do it. You, as a group, are going to discuss the name. A lot of times, the stakeholders are grouped together, and then you can come up with a clever name for that specific group. In class, we talk about harried Harry, and that is his name. And then we write out a description and a value. And in our classes, we are talking about something similar to Netflix or Prime or now HBO Max again. And we are having our harried Harry be one of the customers. And so when we are writing out the description, we're writing out what Harry would like to see on a particular program or app for purchasing movies. And he might be one that is a little bit like me. And when I go on to one of those particular apps for a streaming service, I spend more time looking for what I'm going to watch than actually watching what I'm going to watch. And so that is our description. And we put many key items in that description that are going to help us then when we're creating that product. So we want to look for a way to make recommendations. So Harry doesn't spend as much time looking at all of what is available for him, but can go in and click on those recommendations and find something to watch much sooner. And then the way that you do it. You are going to write out their name, description, and values. And then we are going to be using that persona as we are planning and creating that particular product. And those are all different pieces that you can do to train and lead your team if they're currently using more of a predictive environment for their stakeholders. Personas can really help them articulate better what a particular group of stakeholders is looking for. So, how we do this is we look at our overall strategy, which can come from a project charter, the business value, looking at all of those particular constraints. And then we start to draft and talk about what that solution is going to be. This is where we are going to look at some of those recommendations, those requirements, those expectations. And then based on all of that information, then we put that into our project plan. And when you are introducing more agile or creating more of a hybrid environment, you also want to have an aspect of your project, again, that's going to deal with training your team members and stakeholders on what exactly it means to be agile, and then also to be telling them about what processes, what tools and techniques you're going to be using differently. So, when we start to think about what is our process, what is our strategy going to be, we want to start thinking about the overall organization itself. What is that particular culture? How open are they to change? Are you, as the project manager, evolved and empowered in order to make this change? Or do you need to talk to somebody and get permission in order to uh, change how you're currently doing those projects? You also want to think about the team that is going to be creating this product. A big piece of both for predictive and for agile is looking at that team's availability. You want to make sure when you are doing some training that everyone is available to attend that training and gets all of that same information. You also want to think about the size of the team. If you're working with a very large team, you may need to break them up into smaller groups. Generally, an agile team can be anywhere from about 8 to 10 people, but if it gets to be much more than that, it does create some particular issues for that team. And then also, you want to talk about and think about their skill level. So, their skill level and how willing and adaptive they are to change, but then also what type of skill level they have when you are using a more agile approach, and making sure that if they're going to be trained, then you're going to do that training with them, and then hopefully they'll be able to go off and do the work. If that's not the case, then you need to think about what additional training they may need. And then also, you want to think about the project itself. How can you implement some of our incremental pieces to do more agile? The severity of or the importance of that particular project. And again, it does not always go according to plan at the very first couple times that you use it. So if it is a project that is complex or that has a very strict deadline, it might not be the best project to start using new tools and techniques. And then also the uncertainty level. If it is a project that is generally you don't know as much about the product that you are creating, and you're going to be learning more about it as you are going through, then you already have the beginnings of an agile project. So when we look at using a more of a hybrid approach, we want to break this project down into different components or solutions. So, for example, our solution A for this particular project, we are going to use more of a plan-driven process. And then for solution B, we're going to deliver it more incrementally. And then for solution C, we are going to use Agile and more of a change-driven process. And this is an example of how you can create a hybrid project. So, depending on how your project is each set up, in most cases, I would see component A being one aspect of that particular project. And again, the plan driven pieces of it work really well for construction, for machine work, warehouse work. and our more incremental and change driven, both of those particular aspects work best when less is known about that particular product at the beginning of that project. So, when we are looking at hybrid practices and discussing and thinking about what those requirements are going to be and how we're going to determine what those requirements are, the things that you want to keep in mind are the level of detail when you are using more of a hybrid methodology. You do not need to have all of those specific details that you need in a more predictive environment, because you're going to be learning more and getting more of those details as that product is being created. You also want to think about the timing of it. What type of project aspects are going to be plan driven and that work well using a plan driven approach? What pieces are going to demand to be more of using an agile approach? Or which tools and techniques that are agile can you use during those plan driven components of the project? And then you also want to think about what type of agreements have been made. This may affect your procurement, or it may be internal between each of the departments, and making sure that everyone again is on board with the change and is open to adding more agile. So when we're thinking about our acceptance criteria, then we want to look at what is our strategy, what is our solution, and then also what is our project. And acceptance criteria in a hybrid or agile project is generally less detailed at the beginning. And as you are going through that project, then you may be creating or adding to that acceptance criteria when you are doing a demo with your customer, or they are getting to see and give you feedback on that product. One of our key pieces in using our agile or a hybrid approach is to increase our engagement with all of our stakeholders. So the team members that are working on that project, and then also those team members that are going to be using that specific product, or could be your sponsor, or anyone in a leadership role that is helping to determine what are those requirements, what is that acceptance criteria. So I love this graphic because it reminds me of the pieces of project management that are a science on the green side, that can be more of our plan driven or traditional project management. And then on our colorful side, project management more as an art form. And I also like to think of the art form of it is really working with people and enhancing our interpersonal skills and also those skills of the team members, and being able to speak with our customers, doing demos and helping them to be able to learn more information on creating that acceptance criteria. There is a book that we do sell that is it was written by Mike Griffiths, who is to me the guru of Agile and using hybrid approaches. And there are quite a few different things within that book that really expand on how to implement Agile, how to start introducing some of the different tools and techniques. And the book presents a model that provides a context specific approach from a full spectrum of project disciplines, which might include lean, agile, emotional intelligence, plan driven, and also some industry specific approaches. And it is available in our store, which I do have the website address listed on the slide if you're interested in learning more about this specific topic. This is really a great book to be able to read to help you clarify a little bit better exactly what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be introducing that to your team. So, three tips that you can use today to either start introducing Agile or start thinking about an Agile switch and implementing Agile. I do suggest that you start small. I think it is very beneficial to introduce a few agile tools and techniques like using personas, starting to look at a backlog, and all of those are different things that you can incorporate more into a plan driven environment, but it does help to make that transition. You also want to ensure that you have leadership support and have some more key information about that on another slide. And then you also want to involve all of the stakeholders and make sure that, again, everyone understands why this change is being made. So, when we are going to start small, we want to think through our expectations and our requirements for a specific project. And then we want to evaluate when Agile could be used. We want to look at the different tools and techniques and processes. We want to determine a time to begin using an Agile tool or technique, and then also introduce and train on how to use it and allow the team time to try it out. And that is always important with our team members, is that they get that time to learn the hows and whys, and also then have time and not have a fear of failure when they start using it in a project. When we are going to work to ensure that we have leadership support, we want to discuss with leadership why you want to introduce Agile, discuss the pros and cons of making the switch, explain why and when you start introducing Agile tools and techniques. Anticipate some leaders may not agree and be prepared to defend your position. It is really important to have a good list of why you want to implement this and what difference it's going to make in that project and also with your team. I can tell you that using more of an agile approach, I can tell our leaders that it does cut down on issues at the end of a project because we have had iterations. Many people have already looked at it. And when we are ready to implement and put out a new training program or product, we don't find errors or have a lot of pushback because it has already been vetted through our leadership group and all of our team members. And then before finishing the meeting, reinforce the decision made and ask everyone for their support. It's really important that people do understand that if you are making a significant change, that leadership is showing their support. Team members are going to be looking towards their leaders in order to help guide them through that process. And then number three, involve all of the stakeholders. You do want to create a training plan and determine what practices, tools, and techniques the team will be learning. And while you are doing that training, you also want to make sure that you are reviewing the why and the benefits of using those new tools and techniques. You want to conduct a training class to review hybrid practices or to review more agile tools and techniques. And then you want to begin using those new practices, tools, and techniques. And then you want to be available for your team when they have questions or need help using those new tools and techniques. We do have, as we are getting ready to go through our Q&A, I do have just a few slides towards the end that I'd like to go through with you. And if you do have a question, you can go ahead and put it under the question tab, and I will be answering each of those questions. The courses that we have coming up, we have our PMP, our 4-day classes. You can see all of the different dates that we do have available. All of them are not currently available for you to register for, but that does not stop you from looking at a July or August a date, putting it on your calendar, and then when it's available, you can go into our website and register for that class. We also have a 10-session PMP class, which has been extremely popular. It runs from 6 to 9:30 in the Central Time Zone, and that runs July 14th through August 13th. And also in August, we have a CIPM class coming up. We also in August hope to have all of our new materials for the ACP exam and a class date. Excuse me just for a second, I got a cough again. I forgot to put my glass of water next to me. Um, these are all of the materials that we do have available in for our PMP classes. And I also would like to put a plug out there for our next month ECO webinar. I will be talking about building a team with the right people, right skills, and right now. And we have had quite a bit of turmoil in a lot of different organizations when it's coming to hiring or laying off people. We're going to be talking about hiring. Excuse me, just one more. I am very sorry. Um, and that's part of what we're going to be looking at next month is talking about how to hire if you are in a place to be hiring right now. How to make sure that you get the right people with the right skills in order to be able to be productive and complete all of the projects that you are currently working on. And then lastly, we do have the slide here for you to claim your PDU. And I will leave this slide up as I go through and look at our questions and answer some of these questions. I'm going to pull that up right now. All right. And I do not currently have any questions. So if you would like to put in a question, I would love to answer it. And thank you. I've gotten a few responses that this webinar was very helpful, and that is great. I'm very happy to hear that. You will receive a recording of this webinar, generally send out, it'll be sometime next week that you'll be able to watch it again and take any notes. All right. We did have somebody who did ask about the CAPM course. I am actually, I think it may be coming online very soon in order to register for that. Um, we are currently working on CAPM e-learning that we would have in addition to our instructor-led course, but it's not released yet. Has not been completed. Hopefully by the end of the summer, it will be available. But right now it is instructor-led teacher, and um, that will be in August. All right. All right. Question we have, is it possible to have a planned project with an agile rollout? Yes, it is certainly possible. It would all be about as you are rolling out that specific product from that project. If you are dealing with different departments or different customer groups, you may want to use more of an agile process when you are rolling that out. Um, Also, it may be really helpful for some people in order to be able to help understand all of the intricacies of that particular product. And yes, it is May 16th, not the 15th. I'm sorry for that. I put that together yesterday. All right. If you already have the Kappa book and you sign up for the course, I know that the book materials are included in fee. What portion will be refunded? You know what? That's a great question to ask our customer service. Uh, people, to be honest. I do not deal with that portion of our business or the content development. I'm going to, Melody, I'm going to write down your contact information. And you can always send a specific email um, to our customer service department, and they will be able to answer that and help you out with that. All right. And all right, I've been using a hybrid style for a project building a tax analytics data system. Started with waterfall, business requirements, definitions, and understanding, and is now moving into the execution phase and into an agile style with milestone increments. Um, you do want to make sure that as you are implementing that and using more of an agile style, I'm curious to see what exactly that would mean as far as what those milestone increments are. Is it specifically scheduling dates on the calendar and then working agile in order to meet those specific milestones? If that is the case, then that sounds great. And I don't see any issues with doing it that way. Okay, it has different testing dates and release dates. Ah, perfect. Yes, and again, those I would say that the key thing there is to make sure that you are able to meet all of those release dates on your schedule, and having those be somewhat flexible. I know that's generally a little bit can be a little bit tricky in order to be able to do that. But you want to make sure that you have enough time after you are testing to make any of those specific updates in order to make those release dates. All right. Would Agile be good for a construction projects, a pipeline construction project? Generally, Agile is not necessarily the best way to set up a construction project. Generally, it uses more of a project management or more of a traditional phase in order to set up that construction, because basically you have to schedule everything in order for everything to get done. Generally, Agile is more for things that you are learning as you are going through. If this pipeline construction project is brand new or has never been done before, then it's possible that an agile approach would work for it. But generally, for most construction projects, more of a plan-driven approach is generally best. All right. That is the end of our questions and the end of our time together. So, thank you very much for everyone attending today. I do hope that you took a few kernels of information away from you. And for those 3 tips that you can use today, as I said, you will be getting a recording of this webinar. So, you can go back and take a look at those and create a plan for introducing more agile tools and techniques to your projects. So thank you very much.